All right, see you in 90 seconds. There's the music. It comes to a close, and you stuck it out. All right, guys, it's Scott Stevens. You're glad to be with you on this Wednesday evening. We're kind of in the middle of the week, half of behind us, and just 2 work days ahead of us. And looks like it's going to be some pretty decent weather across the country as we get on into the weekend. And that's never a bad thing, especially if it coincides with payday. I was always a fan of payday. All right, let's take a look. We're going to start in Europe today. I want to flash over there for a moment and take a look at some of their crazy highlights. This site, Severe Weather Europe, has a photo contest, and it's hard not to argue with some pretty crazy cloud pictures because there's a few others we're going to see today, and these like epic thunderstorms, and they're just fun to look. It just makes storm chasing all the worthwhile, even if you don't encounter a tornado, just to be able to set up the cameras and just wait for that right flash. And it is so nice to be able to do this outside of film-based cameras. All right, the other story that for me was actually a little more important here was the extreme heat that's going on. And if you look at the jet stream, we've got a contrast where you've got one area to the west, which is remarkably chilly. And then out ahead of it, just as the United States has been this week, you've got the heat. So it's one, you can't get into this time of year and have cold in one area and not have heat in another. I'll just take a look at the satellite imagery. The green, or excuse me, the surface analysis, the green is where dew points are at or above. I believe it's 60, 65 degrees. And then we've got a cold front. Here we are. What are we, 10 June? And this cold front has plunged all the way past the Gulf Coast of Texas, where even into Houston, it's still warm. But the dew points versus 80 degrees yesterday, they're a far more tolerable lower 50s today. And that is a little bit unusual. It's not like it never happens. It's just sweet relief from the atmosphere that is so sticky, so thick that it's like wearing it. It's just miserable. And then even as we move on up into the panhandle. After the front moved through yesterday, they dropped to the 50s, and then the southerly winds have already returned. But Cristobal, that's the story. We've had one low. She's already up here headed into the Hudson Bay region. When have we ever had a tropical storm retreat so far north and then also, more interestingly, so far west? That is just an extremely rare occurrence. All right, far more temperate conditions across the United States in the wake of that front we just showed you. That is the same front that brought the snow to the west. All right, I'm going to back up right here. 227,000 customers without power in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Again, this all in the wake of severe weather. We'll see that line of thunderstorms marching off to the east. And then the European models, the ECMWF medium range forecast, favors heat building into this coming weekend. So these are forecast highs. So 99 at Omaha, 98 Kansas City, 103 Salina, Kansas, 98 St. Louis. So enjoy the respite that we've had from the heat because it'll come back with a vengeance. This this forecast, actually not this coming weekend, gratefully, but next weekend, where we've got upper 90s all the way into upper Michigan. But I'll tell you one thing about models. They're not all that good. They're okay. They're okay, especially 48 hours out. But there's this delta, there's this variable that they don't consider, they've never considered, and that's geoengineering. And with that in place, you can run these models out 2 weeks and you're just guessing. You'll get an idea, but to expect where a cold front's going to be or where the thunderstorms are going to light up, it's an impossibility. It really, when I'm forecasting, if you can tell your audience that, hey guys, this is just a really broad guess. And what's really kind of annoying is that with the tech we have, we could have delivered to our phones forecast that hour by hour, like they pretend to do, that would be 5 days, 10 days out and be spot on, literally to the hour when the rain would begin, and a very good estimate as to how much. That capability exists. It's just buried into the deep state, because what's the best weapon? A weapon that you don't know about. All right, from Jim Cantori, congratulations, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And this is kind of a nerdy record. Record June minimum surface pressure set in Green Bay. A new record surface low pressure for the month of June. January's different, December's different, even October, November are different, or even April snowstorms, when we have these massive winter bomb, these huge cyclogenesis storms. But in June, when the jet stream is weak, when all the weather surrounds afternoon thunderstorms, not tropical storms. And so that set Green Bay apart. So the record, the barometric pressure was 29.12 inches of mercury, which even in the winter would just be an incredible event. So mark that up to the nerdy guys. Ridgeway, Colorado. Yeah, if you've got a dog that has a triple coat and it's June and it can go out and roll in the snow, I can guarantee you it's going to happen. All right, we had a little financial news going on in the weather community. It happened today. Some guys got laid off, and Matt Lanza, and I've followed him for a while. He said, when all is said and done, what IBM did to Weather Underground, the weather company, will be one of the biggest travesties in this era of mergers and acquisitions, in my humble opinion. Bigger ain't better. So from the Capital Weather Gang, we'll get into this. Weather Underground's Category 6 blog, started by Jeff Masters, now run by Ben Henson Weather, one of the most popular destinations for extreme weather news and analysis, will no longer operate after June 22nd due to the layoffs at the weather company. Now, I left that business in the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006. And there was just this Pac-Man event, as the big companies driven by private equity money borrowed money and then bought little company and bought little company and bought little company and tried to create something called the Weather Company. They own the Weather Channel now. They bought a data service provider called WSI. They were my favorite. They bought WSI's a radar dissemination service, which is called Intellicast. And they kind of rolled it all into this Weather Underground app. And if you're kind of a weather guy, you've got that app today. And it's a disaster. It was something that was very good, but literally in the last 2-3 years, it's just fallen apart. All right, Cristobal continues. This was last night. This was literally probably a day ago. No, just 12 hours ago, but they're always looking at historical data. Even if it is 10 minutes old, it's historical data. As the storm traversed across Milwaukee and Wisconsin, providing that with that record low barometric pressure we saw today. And then, of course, here's the brave intern out of the Weather Service, or just the young new hire, because, the guys that have got a little wisdom don't have to go out there and release the balloon. And look at this guy. Oh, it drags across the ground before it finally gets truly airborne and into the wind. So this was Dodge City, Kansas, where the wind almost never stops. All right, we'll just kind of pop over to what we've been doing here. We kind of got through some satellite imagery, through some radar. There's Cristobal as it begins to lift off from the north and east. Let's go over here. Yeah, I've got dogs. They're in the house. You got to have dogs in the house. Stella, calm it. I got dogs in the house. Robin, can we uncover the fruit trees? I would say yes. I'm looking out the window and there's trees, and I think we've got enough moisture in the air that we're probably golden. Risa, it's beautiful. Oh, yeah, that looks like a gorgeous day down there in North Texas. You can see that. Look at that right there, as you're probably just looking at a beautiful clear sky and sunset. But down here in California and Arizona, there's some flashes, and we'll zoom in there. And there's also some fires. There's some plumes of fires that are kind of nearby. So fire season has begun. Mike, he says, Scott, it's raining in Milwaukee. Yeah, good luck, man. You've probably first tropical storm, and you didn't have to go chasing that. Michael Gauss, howdy from Thailand. Good to see you, man. And Vicky, wow, what a weapon we don't know about. Yeah, and it's its own financial weapon of mass destruction. And there are lots of trails in Northern California today, and we can kind of get in that. I'll pop over here, and when we zoom in, yeah, they like to work the edges of the high pressure, like crest of the ridge. They tend to trace that up so they can watch it very closely. And Wolfram, she is actually a cousin of mine. Hi, Stella and Comet. Yeah, I've got two little Astro named pups. All right, back to the satellite imagery. And then I want to come in here and I'm going to play this a little more slowly. I'm going to go frame by frame with this one. I've got 96 of them queued up. And when I went back to this morning, I was watching, see those little pops. One just south of Vegas, another one, let's go a couple frames more in. Oh, there's actually one here, and one here. And for a guy that's looking at the sky, likes to look through telescopes and likes to see anomalies, things like this. And look at this, the refraction is so bright, the reflection is so bright that it's actually running traces off over like the Catalina Island. And I'm like, okay, what's down there? So pull up Google Earth, and I know it's got to be something reflective. I've already got a pin there, so I don't like make a fool of myself here. And look at all these panels. So this is the reflections off a Sirius solar farm sitting out there in the California desert. So all that heat, all that reflection, easy to see from space when you get an installation this big. And I'll just play at normal speed once, and then we'll be done with it. But big clear skies across the Southwest, so kind of the hottest weather of the day. And there it is the sun passed it overhead. All right, back to radar. Not much else. A few showers in the Northwest. It looks like we've got a tornado warning with the red. Let's pop on in there a little bit closer, just northwest of Charleston, West Virginia, as the squall line rages off to the east. Yeah, nothing's too dry out there. But we'll look at the drought levels tomorrow. All right, and the nice thing is with this cool front that we can see all the way to the Gulf Coast, it really has given these folks a break from the heat and humidity. And when we can get kind of a refreshing round of air and absence of that summer oppressiveness, it really kind of makes the summer a little more doable. Any record heat? Well, we had some nighttime lows tonight is what I have, like 65 and outside of Los Angeles, and then all along the East Coast, just ahead of that warm or that cold front. Those south winds just keeping it going, keeping that heat rolling all the way to the north. There's Albany, New York, 73 degrees. That would break their all-time warm low for this date, which was set back in 2005 of 71 degrees. So there's some nice warm temperatures. Charleston, that's either South Carolina or it's into Virginia. Probably South Carolina, 76 degrees, the record back to 1938. So a lot of places in here. In fact, they're anticipating upwards of at least 22 lows. As far as record heat, almost nothing through the rest of the 7-day period. So that's kind of nice. All right, we'll wind this down with a look at the forecast maps. And we go up to about 18,000 feet, and the black lines are contours. And at this altitude, the wind flows parallel to the pressure contours. It's like a topographical map when you're following the line that says you're 250 feet above sea level, and you just follow that line. The wind does that. So the deeper lows are in here, and the red is kind of the twisting action in the atmosphere. And it's that twisting that allows the uplift, the churning of the atmosphere to happen. And it's when you throw that spin into the atmosphere that you begin to see clouds and then eventually thunderstorms developing. So the Northwest and also the Northeast going to remain cool. And this runs into Saturday afternoon. Wow. So we'll kind of keep a little unsettled weather, maybe some higher mountain showers. But this coolness through the Pacific Northwest persists for at least 1 week. The heat returns all the way from Southern California through the Great Basin. Probably through at least the Southern Great Basin. And then out, what I meant to say was the Great Plains. There's some great places in this country. And then we have the Great Lakes up here. So that's likely what we're going to see over the next couple of days is that kind of where the corners of the country, the Southeast, and then the Northwest cool, and in between, it's just playing kind of warm. All right, let's come over here and take a look at the comments to see what we have in action here. Heather, and we've been wondering why so much precip and chilliness here in Nevada, Nevada City, California too. Lighting the wood stove in the day in the June is not the normal. I almost did that yesterday too. I had a bundle of wood in and could have done it. And even at noon, the clouds hadn't broken yet. The sun hadn't hit the western part of the house yet. I'm like, if I do this, then it's just going to be hot the rest of the day, like too hot, because then the temperature did warm up. And last we had a touch of frost, which is unusual. 10th of June and dealing with a frost, and I just had to lay out the straw and kind of protect the things. But no, Heather, this is probably the climate change that we're going to be dealing with is one where we have intermittent pieces or periods of hot weather, but then bracketed by cold. And in the summer, you're a farmer, you're a gardener. The hot is fine. It's necessary to get your plants to maturity, but the cold creates a problem. And I think as we get to, or I know as we get to probably the middle part of June, we'll look at growing degree days and see where farmers and their crops are behind in maturity, because this will play out in harvest in combination kind of with the second wave of COVID. We're going to see some very fascinating things going on weather-wise. And if you're interested in kind of like the climate change thing and a contrary point of view, there's a kind of a cool guy, Christian, over at Ice Age Farmer, and he's been on this for a while. And it's not something that I haven't been aware of, but he has just been utterly dedicated into getting the message out, and I appreciate those. And ultimately, on my other show, Another Perspective, that I air at 1 o'clock Mountain on Mondays and Wednesdays, will begin to take a deep dive look into this topic, because we need to be aware. We need to be able to plan for those things, and it's just not something we can trust gets taken care of when the planet and the agenda is for warmer weather, and all of a sudden it isn't warmer weather. We need to adjust USDA climate zones. We need to plant our gardens a little bit later. We need to think about investing not necessarily in solar and wind, but in greenhouses, in a way to sustain our ability to feed ourselves. Because I hate to say this, oil and gas will always be there. It'll always be there, whether we like it or not. It's going to be there. So we need to be using what's dependable, and we need to use the excess money, the surplus money, the emergency funds for things that will truly serve us, even in the short term, but definitely in the long term. All right, yeah. Heather's like, Christian is on us on it. Ice Age Farmer is good, and he's just, I appreciate them. Somebody who looks outside of the box and is regular in creating the content and generating the audience and generating the buzz. I always have to give kudos to. All right, here we are coming up on 17 after. I can hear dinner cooking in the other room, and they're just kind of waiting for me to get done so they can resume activity in the house. That's just what's really happening. All right, guys, love you all, and keep looking up, and we'll see you tomorrow.